All right. Hello and welcome to Card Shop Insiders, a podcast where we combine decades of experience from both sides of the counter to take you inside the business of local game stores and collectible gaming hobbies. I'm Noah, and I play games, lots of them.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a card shop owner and veteran of the business.
With our combined perspectives, we're ready to take you inside, so let's go ahead and jump in. John, how you doing today?
Not too bad, Noah. How about yourself? Did you have a good weekend?
I've had a good weekend. We got to play Star Wars. We got to do a Star Wars Unlimited pre-release tournament. John, tell us about that.
Where do I begin? All right. It was a culmination of activities during the week that did their damnedest to prevent us from getting the pre-release kits on time. Okay. I think I mentioned it last week in the podcast that Fantasy Flight, Asmodee, did not get it to the distributor in time for shipment in a timely manner. They themselves sent out to their customers, Asmodee did, and some of the stores had it a couple of weeks ago, according to what I found out from my distributor, Jake, this morning. However, Southern Hobby, Nashville, where I get my materials from primarily, didn't get the product in, the pre-release product in until Tuesday. So they dropped everything, turned it around on the dime. They wouldn't ship out anything else as an add-on to the order, and shipped out just the Star Wars pre-release product to make sure it got out of the building on Tuesday. And the reason they did that is because of time sensitivity. Last week being the 4th of July, UPS is their primary distributor or distribution outlet, and UPS was closed on 4th of July, so they wanted to make sure they got it out. Now, I'm a 2-day ship. It did get shipped on Tuesday because I got a tracking number. However, when I tracked it again on Friday morning, the day after 4th of July, all of a sudden it said on there, to be delivered Friday, such and such time. I said, great. However, if you looked at the actual tracking, it didn't say it made it on a truck, because normally it says it makes it on a truck. So I said, well, maybe it hasn't gotten there yet. It's still sitting in the distributor at the distribution center, which is only about 12 miles from here in Mebane. So lo and behold, it was sitting there at the distribution center on Wednesday. Okay, now this is where it gets good. I went to track it again after 9:30, maybe about 10:30, 10:45, and it showed business closed, we'll redeliver or some stuff like that. And I said, no, this isn't going to work. And then it showed it's going to be delivered at 11:59. I said, well, maybe they're getting their system screwed up. I don't know what the hell's going on with it. But I had a feeling back then, at that time, I wasn't going to get it. You know, you get these automated prompts for these chats and, you know, chat bots and all this crap, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with. So I got online and I said, you know, looked up the UPS 800 number because it's not on their website that I could find. I'm sure it's there somewhere, but I wasn't going to spend another 15 or 20 minutes trying to search it. So I finally found the UPS 800 number. And of course, I get all these prompts again. And I said, I just want to speak to a customer service agent now. And what's this in reference to? Tracking. Well, if you put in your tracking number, we'll be able to track. No, I want to speak to a live person. So finally, I got a live person. And after spending 15 minutes with her, she said, well, the business is closed. I said, it's not closed. I've been sitting here since 8:30 anticipating this shipment because I need it. I need it for an event that I'm having on Saturday. So she said, well, let me look into it. Of course, you know, within that 15 minutes, she looked into it. And lo and behold, it was still sitting at the distribution center in Mebane, 12 miles away. So I said, well, how the hell can it be marked business closed when it's still sitting in the distribution center? I don't really know. Let me put a supervisor on. So after a couple of minutes, I got the supervisor on. He was a little bit more knowledgeable. And he told me, which was verified by my UPS driver this morning, that the UPS driver marks businesses that are closed for holidays or not open on certain days. And my driver was on vacation last week, my normal driver, and the cover driver. So the cover driver would know what's going on. John, she said, I marked, that you were open. And I said, your company sucks. And she laughed, and I explained to her what happened. And she said, John, I'm sorry. I said, Audrey, you're on vacation. You had nothing to do with it. But, the supervisor said, well, I'm going to get you in touch with the distribution center. So he said, are you willing to pick the package up? I said, great. It's only 12 miles away. I'll go and get it. I've done it before at other locations that you've had. So I get this girl on the phone, and she said, it's here. She said, but you can't come and pick it up. I said, why not? Well, we don't have a pickup location at this center. This is a brand new facility. It's huge, and they don't have a pickup center, but the local centers do, which that's another story. And she said, well, I'll make sure that I get it out and you'll have it tomorrow. Now, UPS doesn't deliver businesses on Saturday. I know that. So right then and there, I realized it was a lost cause. I wasn't going to stress about it anymore. I couldn't stress about it because there's nothing I could do about it. And Saturday, I waited along with other people. And naturally, the pre-release kits did not show up. But I was able to pivot, and this is something that we'll talk about in a minute, and do an event. When my my driver came in this morning, because I tracked it first thing this morning, he said, on the truck. So then I knew I was going to get it. And I finally got it at 10:20 this morning. And she profusely apologized. But again, it's not her fault. So when I placed my order this morning with my sales rep, he said, John, he started laughing. This was only like 10:45. And he's an hour behind. He said, I've already had 2 calls. He said, people complaining that they did not get their product on time. And he said, I actually got a text message from somebody on a Friday night who was complaining that they didn't get their pre-release kit. He said, John, there's nothing I can do. And he said, I know the guy was just venting. He said, but it was out of our hands. And he said, it boils down to Asmodee/Fantasy Flight. And he said, our liaison, I guess he's the buyer for it, is going to contact them and say, hey, look, you can't continue doing this to us because it's impacting the credibility of our business with our customers. And you have to get it out in a more timely manner. And at the same time, I asked him, hey, Jake, I noticed on the order, there's no weekly play kits on there. He said, we haven't gotten any information on that yet. So that's another thing that they screwed up so far.
But they do. I think they have a scheduled broadcast next Thursday to talk about organized play with Set 2. So maybe they're changing it and there's no weekly play kit. Who knows?
But they should tell the distributor if they're relying on the distributor to get their product out. They got a distribution problem. There's no 2-way, and it's not Southern Hobby.
I think we should say they're learning distribution. It's still early for them. No,
they're screwing it up. They should know. It's a big company.
You and I had this conversation in the part of the podcast that got deleted last week by technical difficulties. And I think we talked about the fact that one of the issues is that they are, I believe, primarily a foreign-based corporation. And so they didn't even consider the impact of the 4th of July being midweek on shipping.
But they ship out of Minnesota, I think. I think that's where Asmodee is located. I'm almost positive.
Well, they're co-located with Fantasy Flight, which is in Minneapolis.
But the product has to be here. The booster boxes.
All their scheduling isn't done out of Minnesota, though.
Well, whatever.
I mean, I think that their scheduling problem came from a lack of awareness about the holiday. It's really not okay for it to happen to multiple people. I'm glad it was other people other than just you.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think... I'm not defending them and saying that it's fine that this happened. I think that the set championship... Or not the set championship. The pre-release was different because we didn't have the pre-release kits.
True.
We played a regular sealed event with the product that was intended to be used as prizing for the tournament.
And Southern Hobby was prepared on Tuesday morning to send us out the equivalent of the number of packs that we would have required for the pre-release kit. So they were prepared to send me 8 booster boxes. All right. But make a long story short, they got it. So they shipped it out with the intent of, yeah, we're going to have it in time. But earlier in the week, they had, or I guess maybe on Friday, they had shipped out the launch kits, and they had shipped out 2 booster boxes that were supposed to be for prizes that we used for the seal event instead of a quote unquote pre-release. And what I've told everybody, including yourself and your son, when the pre-release kits come in, I'm going to take those 6 packs out that I gave you in advance. I'm going to leave a couple of packs, and you only get 2 because of your outstanding performance. There's 2 in the box for each of you and Luke, but that's your prize packs, and they're in the box, and that's what I'm going to do with everybody else. It's just a frustration level of having to deal with multiple people and getting all different responses and not being able to do what we wanted to do.
One of the limits that it created was a player limit for the tournament that you otherwise didn't have. I mean, you only had enough product to be able to run 8 people for that seal pod.
And I had to turn one person away.
I mean, I think, unfortunately, we only had to turn one person away. It would be cool if we had more people that wanted to play that day. But
yeah, but still, they run
one person away was disappointing.
Yeah, but they run it on a damn holiday weekend, which is not the smartest thing for them to do. I mean, people are on vacation. People are at the beach for the day. They don't want to come in and play. But yet, with their fixed schedule, and this is not only Fantasy Flight, it's Lorcana is doing the same damn thing. They're scheduling events in July, which is a vacation month for people. And it takes away from people coming into the store because they got families. They want to do their thing with their families. And I don't blame them.
Well, it's funny. And with Magic, I feel like you can have more events that are like forced into time windows where people with families or have like extended family obligations may not be available. Because I think a lot of times the Magic community is seen as a group of largely like single, like transient 20 to 40-year-olds that can come in and play whenever they want to. But like when you put an IP on it that's like Disney, which is like a family product, you start getting family people, and then people don't show up because they're busy. Life is happening.
All I can say is Fantasy Flight, Asmodee, or whatever the hell they're calling themselves, the purveyors of this game better get their act together, because if they don't get their distribution straightened out, they're going to have people losing interest in the game, and it's going to happen very quickly.
Well, in your mind, how many sets do they get before they have to have it all worked out?
4.
You think so?
Yeah. So because Lorcana is starting to get their stuff together.
Lorcana is also having some affect of like people and players, right? Like there's less people that you and I were talking about. There's less demand and less people trying to get into that.
It is, but I think it's starting to come back a little bit.
Good.
We'll talk about the hobby, the strength of the hobby game or business in my next little bit of speech here, because I have some information that we can segue into. I like that.
Just getting that word.
I like that word. No, I like transition better.
Let's transition to some other parts of the news. You brought up Lorcana. Big news in Lorcana is that July is the month for set championships. Yep. They've got Ursula's return stuff. Big news on the internet though, stores aren't getting their promo cards. Have you gotten yours?
It's being shipped out today.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the ticket. It's being shipped out today.
First weekend people were supposed to be able to run these things was yesterday and the day before, right. And people didn't get their product.
We had some people go to an event at another store, and I believe they got their product. Again, I'm not 100% sure if they did, but yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be in a timely manner.
On the topic of organized play with these games and how it affects you as a local shop, a small local shop, I found out this last week that there's going to be a mega Lorcana event, like a Lorcana Fest kind of thing, but not one of these challenges, in England, the UK. And as part of that, they're going to be running what they're calling the Ultimate Ursula's Return Set Championship, which is basically just a big freaking tournament, but somehow they've gotten the Ursula's Return Set Championship promos and the playmats to give out at this event.
And when is your event going to be run?
Like this, it's like next week or the week after.
So they got it already.
I mean, they've got this promos. It's well advertised. They're going to have, I think, almost 1,000 people play in the tournament. What do you think about that? You've got this is not a store. This is a convention running a set championship.
I'm sure Ravensburger has some kind of ties to them to make sure that they get the product, because they want to get the name out. They want to get the game out. They want to satisfy the masses. And it does hurt the little stores. If we're not getting our product in or our promos in a timely manner to run these events, what the hell's the sense of running the damn thing? It's pissing people off.
Yeah. No, I think I told you last week or the week before when we were talking about this that I think that the promos for the Lorcana championships are better, are well done. They're more enticing and exciting. The art's better. The playmats are cool. There's better prize support there. But it's still one of those things that's kind of difficult to wrap your head around. Like, you had to do a really strict process to be able to get in, and we crossed our fingers that they would pick you to be able to do one of these like set championships for the last round. And now you're locked in, and now they're doing them at conventions too. Like, you don't have to go to your store to get this.
Noah, it's a money game. That's all it boils down to. It's a money game.
But isn't it a money game for you? Like, you want the money to come to your store.
Yeah, we do. And every store tries to maximize the amount of money they got coming into the store. I don't always operate on that premise. My premise is to make sure my customers are happy. And that's why I don't overcharge or
underappreciate.
Because people come in with families. I mean, you have 4 people you pay for. And if I'm going to say, hey, Noah, we're doing a set championship and I'm going to give out, 4 packs per person that comes in. However, I'm charging you $50 a person. You're going to look at me and say, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you crazy? You got to make it reasonable. And some of these stores do not do that. And it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do at Gen Con. Have they announced it yet, what they're going to do?
I don't think they've announced what they're going to do. They have like an event schedule. There's on-demand tournaments and things that are going to be popping off. But what they're going to announce and what their special promos are, I don't think are out there yet.
And it's pretty expensive too, as far as these special events. I mean, I know Atlanta wasn't cheap for these little side events.
Well, that's a big complaint from this weekend. They did do the Disney Lorcana Challenge in Bochum, Germany, and there was a lot of complaining about the cost of side events and the cost per ticket. Tickets are the prize currency that you get, and so like how much you were expected to earn per dollar spent, and how much you would have to spend to get the cool prizes off the prize wall, which were the alternate art playmats, alternate art cards. It's a frustrating point, I think, for people that are putting in the investment of time and money to be able to go, especially the casual players. I think that's the thing that's the interesting rub, and we've talked about this a couple of times about the shops need to balance competitive and casual play. But when you put together these big events and you're inviting 2,000 competitive players to play, and then you've got other people that are there that are interested in the game but not playing, like how much do you do to cater to them? And these side events are not designed to cater to a casual player.
You got to cater to everybody, and you just have to, because not everybody has deep pockets. They can't go to a big event and spend all this money on the initial ticket to get into the main event, and then do 5 or 6 side events and spending a lot of money. And if they have to travel to it, they got the travel costs, they got the cost of accommodations and food and everything else. And a lot of people just can't do that, especially with people that have families. They just can't do it. Whereby the casual event like we do, we get the locals coming in with 2 or 3 kids, and they have a good time. And that's really what it boils down to. My son said to me, Dad, you think it's feasible maybe to start running more tournaments? I said, we tried that, John. And I said, because not everybody wants to do a tournament. They're intimidated by a tournament, then by the nomenclature tournament. They'd rather just sit and play against Joe or play against Griffin or whatever and have a good time. And your son intimidates Griffin. They get along great. I mean, the age difference is what, 20 years, but they have a good time in playing each other. And it's not that he intimidates, but he nudges him here and there, and it's good. That's good interaction, because it's good for the older player to be able to relate to a younger player, and it's good for the younger player because he's dealing with somebody older that he's going to learn from. Good, bad, or indifferent. I just hope they don't curse, and Luke picks up those curse words all the time. But
no, he'll get his mouth washed out with soap.
yeah, I know. But he probably learns more in school or wherever the hell. He does.
He goes to one of those clean public schools.
Yeah, right. That's how I learned my stuff. Clean public schools in New Jersey.
Right, but you're Yankee.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Magic news. There's a couple of things that we wanted to hit. We update on Assassin's Creed. That's the latest in the Universes Beyond product for Magic. How do you feel like it's been going?
It's okay, but it's not as good as Fallout was. Again, it's expensive.
The game's not as good as Fallout.
Well, I understand that.
So you know.
But, the IP is, people are coming in, they're buying collector packs, they're buying the bundles I sold out of. And the reason I sold out of the bundles is because they had full art foils, lands, and non-foil full arts. The lands themselves equated to the value of the box. If that makes any sense. So, yeah, they sold out quick. I only got 6 of them, and they sold out very quickly.
The lands from that set are really cool.
Right, and that's what people want. And the play boosters is only, I think, 7 cards per pack. They're selling, but not selling very quickly. They're not selling by the box. And the collector boosters are selling pretty well. But I'm not reordering. I have more on my ticket that I told my sales rep I just don't need anymore, because I don't need the expense of letting them sit on the shelf, and then a year from now maybe they'll sell out completely. I just don't want to do that. That's a business decision on my part.
No, I think that's a good choice. There was some cool news from Magic that I don't think we got to go into fully in last week, so this may be some pullover or stuff that people have heard about before. But in the Amsterdam event from Wizards, they announced that there was a new product. MTG Foundations is going to be coming out. It sounds like we're going back to core sets, at least through 2029. Starting with November of 2024, they said the quote from their release was, "Foundations has the expected play and collector boosters, but we're now going to add the beginner box and starter kits, 2 new products that will help teach Magic to new players and help them build their collection. They are designed from the ground up to aid the teaching process." Wizards sounds like they're trying to grab the next generation of gamers and get them into the game. They do this about every 10 years where they release some sort of foundational product that's supposed to be better for new players. They do the 2-player starter thing, or they do some other product. But this looks like they're going back with core sets and adding some more SKUs, which I know you love.
Well, as a business owner, I'm going to order, naturally I'm going to order some of it, but I'm not going to order a lot. It'll be around for a long time. So the first foundation set will be available to order. So there's no sense of me ordering 12 boxes of this stuff and letting it sit. I'll order 2 or 3, and if it sells, I'll order another 2 or 3. I'll let the distributor bear the cost of inventory in it, because I'm not going to do it. It makes no sense.
I think a product like this is interesting for a small shop like you, or for the prospect of somebody that's starting a shop, because they're specifically creating product that's supposed to be geared towards new players. And new players can mean new money, and can mean like jumping into the rabbit hole where there's a lot of spending that goes on. Is there any thought in your mind about trying to do something to like bring in a new player community to play Magic, or trying to entice people that aren't familiar with the store maybe to come in and try Magic with this set?
Well, I know some of the schools have clubs, and see, the problem is that they run these things during school hours, and I don't have the capabilities of going over, and I don't even know if that's appropriate to go over. I did have some customers that were teachers at these schools, and they would send the kids here to buy product, and they've left the school and gone on to bigger and better positions. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I'd like to get the word out that, hey, we're available. If you guys want to come in on Saturday as a group, by all means, come on in. Join our booster drafts on Friday night. you're going to get clobbered the first time around. You're going to lose something fierce. However, there's going to be people there that can help you and learn how to draft and learn the basic premise of the game. And if they learn how to draft well, everything else will fall into place. They'll learn how to build their deck better. So, yeah, I mean, that it's in it for, in my mind for now.
Well, good. That makes it not too much of a bad thing. The other topic from Wizards that I wanted to talk about and thought we might poke you a little bit about was that Wizards announced Arena Direct, which was a new event series that was intended to offer up physical Magic the Gathering product as prizes for your digital play. You and I have talked about some of this stuff before, but they did this last year, actually exactly a year ago, I think. And now they're doing it again, but this time they're giving away Modern Horizons 3 booster boxes.
Great. That's just what we need to hear.
So they did an event last weekend, so 10 days ago now, where if you played online and you finished with 6 wins, they would ship you, the prizing said they would either ship you the booster box as the first priority, but if they run out of those of whatever they've set aside for themselves, then they'll ship you $250 instead.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, I really don't. I'm not even going to comment on this.
Nope.
It's just frustrating as hell because they're competing with us, basically. That's what they're doing.
Well, it brings to mind the question, and a question that was discussed a little bit by players in the store, like, what do these companies see local game stores as? Like, it almost feels like you're just like the thing attached to the end of a long chain, and they don't really care what's out there because they know they can sell direct and they know that they can sell to distribution. And after that, it's like, sure, you guys want to try to make a business and make money off of this, then do your thing.
No.
Don't segue yet.
No, I'm not going to segue yet. I'm just getting prepared for it.
All right, because we're almost there. All right. Well, other than that, no big news from Yu-Gi-Oh. There was a new set that came out last week.
Yeah.
2
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. That's been doing well.
So it's Yu-Gi-Oh. It sells out every time.
And my sales rep, he and I have a good relationship. We talk about all kinds of stuff. And he said, I wish these companies would take a cue from Magic and from Konami about the way they distribute their product and the way they come out with product instead of coming out with all these variations and how they run, follow Magic. Magic's been around for 30 years. Follow their path. Do what Magic is doing that's made them so successful all this time. Do what Konami's doing that has made them so successful all this time. But these other companies like Lorcana, getting back to that, and Fantasy Flight are trying to recreate the wheel. Flesh and Blood is doing the same thing. And Flesh and Blood, as far as this particular store, has died on the vine. I'm not even going to stock it anymore. But, you think these companies would learn from precedents from other companies. And that's where you have to, their competition, and this is where you have to keep an eye on your competition. Enough said about this.
Yeah, well, we talked about that last time. So, all right, well, let's jump over. I think that's a good place to close out the news segment for today. And I think it's time to transition, or segue, as we like to say on this show, into our main topic for the week. And you've done a little bit of work this week to put together the main topic. Why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction into what you'd like to talk about and then bring us into it?
All right. Well, there's a book that comes out, and it used to come out quarterly, and it's called Internal Correspondence, or ICV2. And it's basically a synopsis or analysis of the entire hobby business regarding cards, regarding games, books, hobby books and that type of thing. And I just got this copy and I was reading it the other day. And what we're talking about is hobby games sales flat to down in spring of 2024 as market continues to adjust to post-COVID trends. During COVID, the market went up because people had nothing else to do. They got their government money and they were able to spend the money and come into the store when they were able to and buy product and take it home and play and so forth and collect or whatever the hell else they do, or try to flip it, sell it online or something like that. And I'm going to read this thing. It's easier to do this, Noah. I'm going to go back and forth in here. Hobby game sales were flat to down in spring of 2024. That's January to April, as the market continued to adjust to post-COVID trends that were markedly different from the last few years. Let me see. Although retailers remained generally healthy, and some were definitely up for the first time during this adjustment period, which has been ongoing for a year or more, we are hearing a few signs of financial strain, with inventory buildup and flattened down sales the culprit. Talking about we as the magazine, one distributor told us you should feel a little strain at the retail level. Coming out of Q4, which is quarter four from last year, it was a pretty tough quarter. Going into the first quarter of this year, it bounced back, but it wasn't necessarily strong for them. There's some retailers that are doing okay, some that aren't. Pretty a mixed bag. And, the whole article talks about what retailers are doing. One retailer who has a large group of stores, he has like 4 or 5 stores, he's leaning on his buyers. He said the buyers have to adjust their buying because now we have all this product and we have to make inventory adjustments. Inventory adjustments being they're selling it at cost or under cost just to get rid of it so they can turn it over into new products. And a lot of stores are doing that. And a lot of the bigger stores are hurting because they're not getting that business coming in. Again, you have to manage your inventory to the best of your expectations. And this, certainly proves the point that I was talking about. Let me see. Multiple distributors, we're talking about the big distributors like Southern Hobby and Alliance Games and places like that, told us that retailers that have focused on TCGs over the past few years were finding it necessary to diversify as they struggle to match 2023 sales on the legacy market leaders. Legacy market leaders being the bigger games like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And so forth and so on. Your heavy TCG stores had to start diversifying to maintain their sales because TCGs were declining, one distributor told us.
With the TCG declining, or with the demand for TCGs declining, what does that mean for somebody that's trying to get into the business?
Be careful. Be careful. It may not be the time to step into the market right now and open up this type of store. It runs in cycles. Everybody thought COVID was going to kill everything, but COVID brought people into the stores to buy product or out to the street, curbside, whatever the hell they did at that time. Just be careful. As a small store, you don't want to come into a market that's declining because you're at a deficit to begin with. You're competing with other stores, and they're going to do as much as they can to box you out. So if you go into a market that has 3 or 4 competing stores and they see, Noah's Card Shop opening up, they're going to do everything they can to squash Noah's Card Shop. Unless Noah has deep pockets. And that's a fact. That's a fact, Jack. But
so, one of the things that's referenced there is TCG primary stores. That's what we're talking about on this podcast. LGSs, local game stores that focus on TCGs, are looking to diversify income streams. We've talked a little bit about income streams before on the podcast. What do you see as avenues for diversification for stores that are feeling pinched by the lower demand for the TCG market?
Games, if you have the space, but then again, that's a different ball of wax. Or, God forbid, you can try sports cards. But sports cards aren't exactly healthy right now either. Sports cards went down the tubes not a couple of years ago, but a number of years ago, because there was just too much out there. Companies are starting to consolidate too. All the smaller companies are being bought up. But there was a whole bunch of product out there at one time, and everybody did their own sport card thing. But the problem is, and not a problem, but people didn't realize there was a hobby market for sports cards and there was a retail market for sports cards. It's essentially the same thing for TCGs. But, getting back to sports cards, and I don't really have a lot of familiarity with it, so I can't talk about it other than, or would talk about it with any degree of absolution as far as what I'm talking about. Sports cards, people would come in and they'd see a box on the shelf and they'd see it $5.99 a pack. And they would look at me and say, well, Target has it for $3.99 or $4.99, or the drugstore has it for this amount. But that's the retail or hobby store, and retail stores are two different markets, and they're packaged different. And the propensity of getting a better card out of a hobby store is greater than getting a better card out of a retail store. And they couldn't understand that. All they saw was, you're charging $5.99 for this pack. They're charging $3 or $4 or $4.99 for this pack. And they just couldn't understand that. But that's an area that you can diversify in. I wouldn't carry a lot because there's too many, opportunities out there for other people to do the same thing. You can get into comic books, and that's another ball of wax. Comic books is very volatile. And the way the distributor works is you buy it, you own it. So if you buy, if you get into comic books and you have a subscription service, say, hey, Noah wants the newest issue every month, and you pay on a subscription service that you're guaranteed to sell it. But Noah may be the only person that wants to get on that subscription service, and you may have to buy 12 copies of that magazine in order to get it. And then all of a sudden you got one going out, and you got 11 sitting on the shelf doing nothing except collecting dust. And hopefully they're going to appreciate in value. But you have all these other avenues to get your comic books at.
Other things I've heard of, role-playing games. That's a different variant of gaming, right? People get into the D&D stuff for Pathfinder or other systems for role-playing. But that's a demand on your space as well as a demand on your retail budget, right?
Yeah, and what the hell's the company that does Warhammer? You have to buy, I forgot the name. Not Fantasy. I forgot the name. But you have to buy an initial $2,500. Games Warehouse, yeah. You have to, they call me up once a month. Do you want to open up an account? No, I don't. They require you to spend $2,500. And you get a nice display and you get all this stuff. However, you got to have the customers come in and buying your stuff, and you're not allowed, as per your agreement, to turn around and sell this stuff online. You can't do it. You're obligated to sell it only in your store. Again, a small store like this, I don't have the capabilities of stocking it. I don't have the space. Plus, a lot of these players that do these gaming type games, they'll go home and they'll play in their basement. They'll play in their garage, or they'll play around their kitchen table. They're not going to come in the store. And if they do, most of them buy their stuff online. They may buy some dice here, but they're going to buy most of their product online. And when they come in the store, they're going to buy a drink or two, and they're going to take up space that, I can use for other things. So that's my take on it.
Well, I think that's an interesting thing to note. I guess also, as far as being aware of the market trends, I think that's an important thing to do. What are some sources other than the magazine you brought us today that you stay kind of ear to the ground on to keep track of market trends and prepare the store?
You got to listen to your customers, what they're buying. And I pretty much can tell exactly. Here's a list here of top collectible games in spring of 2024. All right, this is at the Hobby Channel, which is stores like this.
So you got Magic.
All right, go ahead. Did you look at this damn list?
No, Magic's always number one.
All right, go ahead. What's next? Come on.
Keep on.
All right, that's good. What's next?
Yu-Gi-Oh.
No. Lorcana.
Lorcana got third.
Lorcana got third. Yu-Gi-Oh's fourth. One Piece.
One Piece I was going to put
One
on
Piece
the top 5.
is fifth on the list.
It's got a lot of Mo right now.
It does. However, again, with Distribution is there's two channels for distribution. There's Alliance Games and there's GTS. Yeah, those are the only two. The problem is you have to order 6 months in advance in order to get on their list of products. I think we talked about it once before. I set up One Piece events because I did have an account with Bandai and I still have it. But you don't get product directly from Bandai. Once you set up the events, they guarantee you're going to get pre-release kits that you can buy. You don't get them for free. You have to buy them. And they come from the distributor. But the distributor, for instance, I ordered a case of 12. They allocated me two boxes. So I can't even sell the product. When I start doing One Piece, I'm going to have to get
2 boxes.
Yeah, 2 boxes. And I'm going to use those those 2 boxes as prizes. But that's a hot item. And then Star Wars came in at number 6.
That's not surprising.
No, it's not. And then Weiss Schwartz, which is another Bushy Road game. Well, Bushy Road, yeah, that's a different story. I don't even deal with them anymore. Flesh and Blood, which I talked about. Icons of the Realms, which is from WizKids. I think I had one person.
Something about that.
Yeah, I had one person come in and ask them. Just
WizKids, man, there's a company that's put out some products.
Yeah, they did. Digimon is still hanging in there at number 10. Even though...
Is that because there's not an 11? Like Digimon just had to be the bottom of the list?
Probably. I don't know. But that's at the hobby channel. Now, the mass channel, which is the Walmarts and the Targets and things like that.
Pokemon.
Pokemon's number 1. Go ahead. Number 2.
Baseball cards.
No. Magic. Yu-Gi-Oh's 3. Lorcana's 4th. And One Piece.
There's no Star Wars in that.
There's no Star Wars in that because they don't sell.
They don't sell to mass.
Right.
Retail.
But One Piece is number 5.
You can get One Piece at Walmart.
Yeah, that's what it says.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it. It's probably because you got people going in there as soon as it's put on the shelf, they take it home and put it on eBay.
Yeah, well.
I'm sure that's what's happening. All right, and then overall, all right, you've got Pokemon, Magic, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh, and One Piece.
So wait a second. Pokemon sells so much at retail that they are number 1 overall?
Overall, according to this. Here, look at it yourself. There it is.
I can verify that I am looking at the list and John reads accurately.
Yep.
Wow.
Amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's such an interesting thing. We've talked about Pokemon. I've talked about Pokemon with several of the other people that play games with us here at the shop. And like the interesting thing, like my son loves a Pokemon card. He doesn't play Pokemon. Like he and I have played games of Pokemon.
They collect.
But he just, he'll put together decks and take them apart and put them together and take them apart. He plays with them. He goldfishes, like played against himself with 2 decks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he played against a friend of ours. Maybe they'll play again next week or the week after when they get to go visit Wisconsin. They, he doesn't play that anywhere other than just at the house.
We used to have a big Pokemon community when I first opened up. I mean, it got to the point one time that the store was small. It was about the same size as this, actually. And I had 60 some odd people show up to play Pokemon one day. So what I had to do was run it in as teams. Your team A, your team B. Team B, get the hell out of the store. Go outside. It was a nice day. Team A, you come in. You do the first round, then you go out. Team B comes in, does the first round.
Wow.
And that's it. Oh, yeah, it was crazy back then. However, that's when Wizards of the Coast owned them. And then when Wizards turned over, the licensing thing.
PI got formed to take that license away from.
Right. So the game kind of dwindled here. I mean, I do have people who come in and buy cards. Pokemon has they have a strong community as far as big events.
Mm-hmm.
They don't run them every week like some of these other.
Pokemon's events, and I think that they announced that they're going back to this, that local tournaments start to get qualifying points for the big, the world circuit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pokemon's model is a lot better than what the other games are doing, where there's really no incentive to play locally.
Yeah. and I don't have a lot of people that come in and want to play in an organized event. They'd rather just collect the cards. I know there's some stores that thrive on pre-releases and Pokemon. Like I said, we used to do Pokemon, and we ran the Pokemon League and everything like that. But during the transition period to the different company, the qualifications, even though I was qualified and I was getting all this stuff, you had to requalify. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, that it just took almost an act of Congress to get qualified again. And they wanted to do a background check, which was fine with me. And they did everything. They did everything they were supposed to do. However, I never got notification that the account was set up. And somebody dropped the ball along the way. And I inquired about it again. And they said, well, you have to redo this. And I said, screw that. I'm not doing this anymore. I just didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast before and how you end up falling out with them. But I mean, the other thing, I don't see a lot of local Pokemon scene. There's only a couple stores here that even run Pokemon tournaments. Yeah. But we talked about the fact that every fifth grader at these elementary schools has Pokemon cards. And they get them at Walmart.
Yeah.
Just like it says in the report.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly where they're getting them. I mean, again, we do get our share because Walmart doesn't sell them by the boxes. And Walmart's had a lot of problems with theft and people coming in and, taking the packs and going in the racks with the clothing and opening up the packs and taking out the good cards and walking out with them.
Well, my kids were checking out the Pokemon display while I was at Walmart the other day, and they were distraught to find that somebody had gone and opened a bunch of the packs and taken cards out of them.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
I mean, that's the nature of retail sales and volume like that.
Okay. Walmart's got a lot of problems with theft. It's not only with Walmart, but
Walmart, Target, Kohl's, name it.
Even the grocery store up the street here, the Food Line. I was talking to the assistant manager, and they said they have a lot of theft that's going on there, especially because of the self-checkout.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, self-checkouts. That's a pain in the ass.
An interesting thing that they've continued to do. I mean, they would rather allow for the loss on the theft than to pay cashiers to staff the store.
Yep, which is stupid on their part. I see on the news that a lot of companies are getting away with the self-checkout.
But didn't Amazon at one point have full stores that were supposed to be like self-checkout, and they've had to close those because that didn't work?
I think they did it in their grocery stores too. What's the grocery store? Whole Foods. Whole Foods.
Well, they also, Amazon did this stuff in cities that you have no business running, like honesty programs in, like some of the West Coast cities that are known for these big petty crime rings. Like, why were you doing this in Seattle and San Francisco? Like, this is dumb.
Companies make dumb decisions, and it's not always
like not shipping their stuff out before the 4th of July. Wow, that's a way to bring that around. All right, John. Well, I think that's good for our topic this week. Do you have anything else you wanted to share on the topic before we transition over to the 3 E's?
It's a 3 E's part of, I guess it's part of the podcast that I wanted to talk about, right?
I thought we'd do the podcast in there. We talked about talking about podcasts in the 3 E's this week. And you said you wanted to do some Snapple caps.
My Snapple caps. My Snapple caps.
I guess the podcast listeners really want to know, how many Snapples do you consume in a week to be able to bring us these tidbits?
Even if it's one, well, actually I cheat because you can get on Snapple caps or whatever.
There's a website.
There's a website, and you can do a random check. They got thousands and thousands. You didn't know this? Yeah, they got thousands.
And I spend all my time making new decks so that I can play these games.
Yeah, what you can do is just Google search Snapple caps. It'll bring you to it, and there's a Snapple cap thing for the day, and then you can go down to the bottom and it says randomized, or you can go in order, and then randomize will bring another Snapple cap fact up.
John, your homework assignment for this week is going to be sending an email to Snapple soliciting an endorsement deal for this podcast.
I didn't have to go to college. I learned more about the from Snapple caps than I did at 4 years at school.
Oh my gosh, let's hear it. What did you get this week? First of all, now that we know this, did these come from a Snapple that you consumed, or did you generate these?
One did, and the other one I cheated on, and it was
Let's not call it cheating. It's alternatively sourcing.
Whatever. Yeah, I hit the thing and randomized it, and I got this other fact.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, you want to hear the one I got from the Snapple cap?
I would like to know.
And getting back to your original question, one a day. Maybe.
One a day.
One a day, maybe. That's what I.
Are they at least apple flavored? So they
No, they're tea. They're diet tea, which is no good for me.
I was going to say that's like the worst thing you could drink, isn't it?
Tea?
Diet tea?
No, tea itself. Tea itself is not good for you because black tea is bad for your kidneys and creates kidney stones. Did you know that?
I did know that.
And the other worst thing that you can drink is Mountain Dew.
Yeah, but that's don't even start the Mountain Dew thing.
Yeah, those two bad things that you shouldn't have.
Have you ever watched the documentary about the Mountain Dew in the Appalachian Mountains?
No.
Oh, gosh, we'll talk about it a different time. Maybe that'll be a post-podcast chat
for our patrons. All right, Snapple Cap fact for today. You know what a group of you cheated because you looked at this damn thing. It's on your sheet.
Oh, is it on here?
Yeah, it probably is. A group of raccoons is called a gaze.
You could call it cheating when I create the outline.
A group of raccoons is called a gaze. Gaze. All right. And then the other Snapple fact, where I didn't look at the damn cap itself, and I sourced alternative information, was if you doubled, and I knew this, but I didn't know how much it was. If you doubled 1 penny daily for 30 days, you would have $5,368,709.12.
That's cool math.
So I'm going to tell your son, I'm going to say, hey, Luke, come here. Tessa, come here. Tell your father you want to take it in pennies. 1 penny one day, double it the next day.
The problem is money doesn't grow on trees, and you can't create matter from nothing. The source you have to find where you can get to the doubled penny when it gets up to $2.6 million to get to $5.2 million. You have to have somebody that has that kind of money to double.
Here, I thought you were there. God.
We're podcasting together on the internet. Are either one of us there?
I'm not there. That's for damn sure.
We go. All right, what else you got for us? You want to talk podcasts? Tell me more.
A little bit about podcasts. And this kind of hit the mainstream for me. And I mentioned it last week, and we didn't get around to talking about it.
Yeah.
Costco has a magazine every month. Here, I'll put it up on screen. It's called Costco Connection. And the primary article for July was entitled Loud and Clear. Costco members are using podcasts to discuss their passions, interests, and more. And it's a pretty good article, and it highlights a couple of people who are Costco members who are doing their podcasts, and they brought them to light. They were doing other type of activities before, somewhere on the network news, and they didn't like it and so forth, so they branched out. But, I guess what the most important thing is podcasts have exploded in popularity since 2004, when the term was first introduced and in an article of The Guardian. It's been 20 years and podcasts have been around. I know YouTube is taking over the popularity of podcasts right now, but I think the two of them are running synonymously. And it talks about, having the right equipment, which we do, but we don't know how the hell to use it half the time. There's one guy, he spends between 40 and 60 hours per week preparing for each show's 90-minute interview. They're known for doing in-depth, probing interviews that celebrate, illustrate their guests' lives. I know we don't even come close to spending that kind of time. I know. No. I don't. I don't.
Well, but I can see that with some of the podcasts that are really detailed and going into some of this other stuff, and you're going to get a guest for one time ever. And so you want to parse down what you're going to talk about. You really don't want to have an episode where you're just kind of ebbing and flowing through a 90-minute session. You want to make sure you know what you need to talk about and how to get your guests to provide maybe insight and information that they haven't given somewhere else. That's a big part of the podcast market. It's getting stuff and content that is unique.
See, I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about at any given time.
And that's part of what worries your editor.
Yeah, it's fun doing it this way because you never know what I'm going to lob at you, Noah.
Well, that's why we emphasize the document and the show notes, John.
We have documents and show notes? All right. I highlighted a couple of things in this article. Because podcast distribution is based on listeners subscribing, the guy's name is Thorne, says the first and most challenging step is building an audience. It's not linear or algorithm driven. It's what someone's chosen. That's a different kind of connection you get from a YouTube video where you suggest where it's suggested to you based on the last one you saw. Finding your people might be tapping into their interest, your fame. We're not famous, or your connections in the community. We have a few connections, but nothing of any great shakes. Then participating in online enthusiastic communities. The podcast did get a little bit more popular during the pandemic also, because people were staying home and that's what they wanted to do. They got their voice out. And there's some good podcasters out there. I wish we had the following that the Kelsey brothers have on.
That does everybody.
But they're taking a 2-month hiatus. Did you know that?
Well, we should offer to substitute for them.
We should. But do you know why they're taking a 2-month hiatus?
Why?
Number one, to count all their damn money. Number two.
Disney World?
No. Number two.
Taylor said so.
No. And number two is because Travis is going to training camp. And he can't do both of them. Well, training camp is coming up for the NFL. So Travis is going to have to stop jet setting. No more jet setting. He's going to have to spend time getting his body, his mind prepared for the upcoming season. So that's why they're putting it on hiatus for 2 months. But they got a couple million subscribers, so they're not going to lose any. They got all these Swifties that have subscribed to it.
Yeah, well, maybe we can find out if Taylor Swift plays Magic. Maybe we can get her into the game hobby.
Well, she's friends with Post Malone, so maybe we can convince Post Malone to talk. They did a thing together on,
The Olympics has got Magic cards in it. We mentioned that briefly before. Now we're going to try to get it onto the T-Swift Tour, and then things are going to be amazing.
Wouldn't that be a hoot?
Whew.
I don't think it'll ever happen, but it's good to dream.
There's an executive at Wizards of the Coast right now that is just drooling over the idea of putting a Magic card in Taylor Swift's hands.
I don't know if they're insightful enough to do that because they've been doing some stupid stuff.
Yeah. All right, well, you got anything else on podcasting you want to share before we wrap up?
That's it. That's it for today.
All right, folks. Well, thank you for joining us this week on Card Shop Insiders. We're so grateful for you supporting and listening. If you'd like the show, please like, subscribe, and follow us on all the different platforms. It's helpful if you would give us that little click and check mark on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Instagram, and X, our social media handles. We also have the Patreon, which we've talked about previously on the show, but we're grateful. We need to pull that up so we can talk about our patrons. But we do have a Patreon on the show. There's one tier. On that tier right now, you get access to a behind-the-scenes video each week with the content before and after our recording sessions, as well as some of our background discussion about how we prepare for the episodes. We're looking to add more benefits to that as well, including possible stickers and other fun things. And you also get your names read off on the episodes that we have each week. So our patrons, subscribers to Patreon, our number one subscriber, the first subscriber that we had, Ben, and then we also have Brandon, Grant, and Logan. Thank you all for subscribing to our Patreon and for supporting the show that way. If you haven't done it yet, please join us up there and show your support for the show and help us to be able to continue to bring you this product and have fun sharing some insight with you from the industry. Finally, thank you again for everything, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And those of you that are on YouTube, please share and help us get more or gain more subscribers. That's always a benefit to us. Click the like button. That's important. That's it for me today, guys. Have a good one.